It was a cold, moonless night when the phone rang. The clock struck midnight, its chimes echoing through the stillness of my small apartment. I had just settled into bed, the weight of the day finally lifting from my shoulders, when the shrill tone shattered the silence. I glanced at the screen. Unknown caller. A shiver ran down my spine, but curiosity got the better of me. I answered. Hello? My voice trembled slightly, betraying my unease. There was a moment of silence on the other end, and then a raspy voice whispered, Help me, please. My heart raced. Who is this? What do you need help with? The voice continued low and haunting. I'm trapped. In a place where time stands still, you must listen carefully. I felt an inexplicable chill in the air as I sat up in bed, clutching the phone tightly. What do you mean? Where are you? At the door. Knocking, it replied, each word dripping with despair. You have to let me in before it's too late. Confusion washed over me. Let you in? Who are you? Where are you? The voice grew more frantic. You have to remember, it's your fault I'm here. You pushed me away. Now I'm trapped between worlds. Suddenly, a flood of memories surged through my mind. Faces from my past, friends I had lost touch with, and one in particular. Sarah. We were inseparable once, but life had taken us down different paths until we drifted apart completely. Sarah? I gasped, recognizing her voice now, though it sounded distorted and far away. Yes. You have to help me, she cried out, her voice cracking with desperation. I'm knocking on death's door if you don't open it. Before she could finish her sentence, the line went dead. The silence that followed was deafening. I stared at the phone in disbelief, my heart pounding in my chest. I jumped out of bed and rushed to the window, peering into the darkness outside. The street was empty, but something felt off. A heavy presence loomed just beyond my sight. Suddenly, there was a knock at my front door. My breath hitched in my throat as I hesitated. Was it really her? Or something far worse? I crept toward the door, every instinct screaming at me to turn back, but as I reached for the doorknob, I remembered Sarah's plea. You have to let me in. With trembling hands, I opened the door. The hallway was dark and empty, but there was a cold breeze that swept past me, carrying with it a faint whisper. Help me. Before I could react, a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness. A silhouette that resembled Sarah, but twisted and distorted like a reflection in a broken mirror. Why did you leave me? She wailed, her voice echoing with pain and sorrow. Why did you forget? Terror gripped me as I stumbled backward into my apartment. Sarah, what happened to you? I'm trapped, she said again, her eyes hollow and pleading. You have to remember, or I'll be lost forever. In that moment of clarity amidst the fear, I realized what I had to do. I stepped forward and reached out toward her ghostly form. I'm sorry. I should have never let you go. As our hands touched, flesh meeting ethereal, I felt an overwhelming surge of energy course through me. Memories flooded back, laughter shared over coffee, secrets whispered under starlit skies, everything we had once been together. But as quickly as it began, it faded into darkness. With one final scream that echoed through eternity, Sarah vanished before my eyes. The air grew still once more. Silence enveloped me like a shroud. I fell to my knees on the cold floor, tears streaming down my face as realization dawned upon me. Sometimes we don't just lose people, we lose pieces of ourselves along with them. And now I was left alone with nothing but echoes of a past that would haunt me forever. a reminder that some doors should never be opened again. As dawn broke over the horizon and light seeped into my apartment, I knew one thing for certain. Death may knock at our doors in many forms, but it is our choices that determine who we let in and who we leave behind. The doll I bought on the dark web started talking at night. It all started with a late-night browsing session, fueled by curiosity and a hint of reckless abandon. I had heard whispers about the dark web, an underbelly of the internet where anything could be bought or sold, from illicit substances to bizarre curiosities. That night, I stumbled upon a listing that caught my eye. A vintage doll, its porcelain face cracked and its glassy eyes staring blankly into the void. The seller claimed it was cursed, but that only piqued my interest further. With a few clicks and a payment made in cryptocurrency, the doll was mine. I imagined it as a quirky addition to my collection of oddities, a conversation starter for guests who dared to visit my small apartment. When it arrived a week later, I was both excited and slightly apprehensive. The box was unmarked, and the doll itself was even more unsettling in person. It wore a tattered dress, and its hair was matted and unkempt, but there was something captivating about it. I couldn't help but place it on my shelf, right in the center of my living room. The first few nights passed without incident. However, on the fourth night, something changed. As I lay in bed, the house enveloped in silence, I was jolted awake by a soft, whispering sound. My heart raced as I strained to listen. It seemed to come from the living room. "Play with me." I froze, half convinced that I was dreaming. I glanced at the clock. 2:13 a.m., the whisper came again, clearer this time. "Play with me." I sat up slowly and peered into the darkened room. The shadows danced along the walls, but there was no sign of anyone else present. Gathering my courage, I slipped out of bed and crept toward the living room. There it sat, the doll, its eyes glinting in the faint light from the street lamp outside. My breath caught in my throat as I realized its mouth was moving. "Why don't you want to play?" it asked in a childlike voice that sent chills down my spine. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over my own feet. "This isn't funny," I shouted into the darkness, though deep down I knew there was no one else there. The doll's head tilted slightly, as if considering my words. "But you brought me here. You wanted me." "No, I didn't want this." Panic surged through me as I turned to flee back to my room. "Don't leave me." The voice grew louder, more insistent. "I'm lonely." I slammed my bedroom door shut and pressed my back against it, trying to catch my breath. What had I done? This wasn't just some creepy toy. It felt alive, possessed by something far beyond my understanding. The following days were a blur of anxiety and dread. Each night, the whispers returned, pleading for attention, begging for companionship. "Play with me," echoed through the halls, like a haunting lullaby. Desperate for answers, I began researching the doll's origins online. What had seemed like a fun purchase now felt like a grave mistake. The more I delved into its history, the more unsettling stories emerged. Tales of children who had vanished after playing with similar dolls. Whispers of curses that bound their souls to these lifeless figures. One night, unable to withstand another round of pleading whispers, I decided to confront it. "What do you want from me?" I demanded as I stood before it in the dim light of my living room. "Your love," it replied softly, its voice dripping with sorrow. You're all alone. Just like me. A wave of guilt washed over me. Was this doll merely reflecting my own loneliness? In my quest for something unique to fill an empty space in my life, had I inadvertently invited something sinister into my home? I'm sorry, I said slowly, feeling an unexpected pang of empathy for this cursed being before me. But you're not real. The doll's expression shifted. Its eyes glistened with unshed tears. Then let me show you. Before I could react, darkness enveloped me like a thick fog. My surroundings blurred until all that remained was an endless void filled with echoes of laughter and cries, a cacophony of lost souls trapped within their own despair. Help us, they cried out in unison as shadows danced around me. I felt myself being pulled deeper into this abyss as panic surged through me once more. No, let me go. Suddenly everything went black. I awoke gasping on my living room floor. Drenched in sweat and trembling uncontrollably, the doll sat innocently on its shelf, as if nothing had happened, a mere decoration once more. But deep down inside me lingered an unsettling truth. It wasn't just a doll. It was a vessel for something far darker than I could comprehend. From that night on, every time darkness fell and silence enveloped my home, I could still hear its whisper echoing through the walls. Play with me. And no matter how hard I tried to ignore it or push it away, part of me knew that some games are best left unplayed, and some dolls should never be brought home from the dark web at all.